Hey everybody, Nine Blackman here and welcome to my channel. I just wanted to do a quick video to talk about the Kevin Hart documentary on Netflix. I had the pleasure of seeing a video by another YouTuber called For Harriet about this documentary. It is called Kevin Hart Is Not Okay. I've linked it in the description box below. And what piqued my interest about her video was she called Kevin Hart's documentary a study of black masculinity. Now, whenever you say something is a study of black masculinity, you have piqued my interest. So I had to stop what I was doing and just watch this whole thing. And for those of you who do not know, the Kevin Hart documentary appears on Netflix. It is entitled, ironically, Kevin Hart, Don't Fuck This Up. And I say ironically because that is exactly what Kevin Hart does. He does indeed fuck this up. The documentary is 6 25 to 30-minute episodes that chronicle, I would say, roughly a year to a year and a half in Kevin Hart's life. And what it basically does is it chronicles 4 major fuck-ups in Kevin Hart's life. The first of which is the cheating scandal that unfolded, where he went to Las Vegas and cheated on his wife, who was 8 months pregnant at the time. The next major fuck up is this blowout he has in one of his friendships that almost cost him a friendship and almost gets him and his friend arrested on an airplane. And then it culminates in the fuck up with the homophobic tweets and how he handled that situation, which eventually cost him the opportunity to host the 2019 Oscars. So I found this fascinating. It was fascinating on so many levels, and not so much because I thought it was a study of black masculinity, but just because I think it has some very important messages for black men, for men, and really for anyone who is on a level up journey. I think the most important message that I took from this docu-series is it is okay to fuck it up. If you don't come into this situation and do everything perfectly, that is okay. And I think that that is a message that we need in this day and age. I think we are constantly bombarded in this country, and I think black men in particular are bombarded with the message that we must do everything right. And if you listen to a lot of the content on YouTube and on Twitter that we hear from black women, we have failed them. We have done many things wrong, and I'm not taking anything away from that content. I think a lot of what they say is valid. But I think because we hear this message from so many different sources, you can walk away as a black man and even as a man in general with the sense that men have failed women, and that black men have failed women, black men have failed black women, and almost in an irreparable way. And I think that's unhealthy and damaging. So what this documentary does is it shows very clearly that you can fuck stuff up, and guess what? You can come back from that. You can pick yourself up. You can dust yourself off. You can try again. You can make amends. You can heal relationships. You can fix situations. And eventually get it right. And I think that's a message we need. Now, before I get too deep, let me say this about Kevin Hart. I don't go hard for Kevin Hart. I'm not one of these people who follows him on social media. I don't go to his concerts. If he has a movie out, I may go, I may not go. But every time the church doors open, as it were, I'm not going to be at the theater going hard for Kevin Hart like that. I feel indifferently about Kevin Hart in terms of his talent. But what I do respect and what I deeply and vastly appreciate about Kevin Hart, which this documentary really clearly illustrates, is Kevin Hart has the superpower of being able to package and market Kevin Hart better than anyone. And he has managed to take what he does and put it across a variety of media platforms and do that successfully. And we're talking about social media, we are talking about films, we are talking about streaming services, television, podcasting, a pitch man for various companies. And I mean, when you look at all the pies that Kevin Hart has his hands in and has his hands in those pies successfully, you have to respect what he has been able to do. Now, does the documentary go hard saying that Kevin Hart is the hardest working man in show business? Yes, it does. And I think that message is not necessarily a message we need. We're always told that we need to be hustling, we need to be on our grind, blah, 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 to our detriment, I think. To the detriment of our relationships, to the detriment of our emotional health, to the detriment even of our physical health. And I think we see evidence of the detriment that being on your grind and hard on your hustle all the time does in Kevin Hart's relationships. So we need to peel back, what we're being served and look at the fruit of what that lifestyle and what that mentality ultimately can do in our relationships, and exercise balance and realize that if you're on your level of journey and your journey takes years, you're going to sometimes be out of balance. And even that can be okay. You're going to have seasons in your level of journey where you are pushing very hard, and maybe some relationships in your life will suffer. And that's something you have to reconcile. You have to decide for yourself what's most important. And you will be out of balance in your life at times. But I think it's a pendulum. You have to swing the balance back. And if you notice that you've been in a season where you've been working so hard that you're kind of compromising your relationships, maybe you have to take a moment and you have to put some extra energy into the relationships and into the people that you love and care for to be as balanced as you can under the circumstances, recognizing that your hustle and your desire to reach a next level will cause you inevitably to be out of balance in areas of your life. And so you must decide at some point how much is enough, how much is too much, and when you need to pull back. And I think that's something a lot of us struggle with. I think women particularly have the burden of being demonized for that struggle. And I think men kind of don't have to carry that as much, and we should. We need to be nurturing our children. We need to be nurturing our partners. We need to be as committed to that as we are to being providers and being caregivers financially for the people in our lives. So there's that. So a few things that specifically spoke to masculinity jumped out at me about the Kevin Hart documentary. I found it really fascinating that Kevin Hart's friends felt like they needed to take responsibility for his cheating. They weren't the friends that would hold him accountable and say, "Hey man, hey, what are you doing?" They were the friends that said, "Oh, I should have been there. I should have interfered. I should have protected him. I should have stopped that from happening." I guess that's cool, but we need friends that will tell us, "Hey, that's a douchebag move. Don't do that. What are you doing?" We need friends that will check us. But if all your friends work for you, it's hard for your friends to be those friends that check you. Another thing that I saw in the documentary that I thought was deep and fascinating was Kevin Hart attacking his friend's financial situation and basically accusing him of not managing his money well. I think there are ways to do that do not undermine another man's masculinity. There are ways to check men that are supportive. And I think anytime we try to correct or help each other, we need to be very mindful of how sensitive and how fragile men's egos are, and how men are constantly under attack and constantly under criticism. So how you frame things, how you say things, even when things are helpful and need to be said, becomes important, because we get caught up in how you said something. So if you're going to come at me, you need to do that in a way where I can receive it, and in the spirit of love and in a spirit of gentleness and supportiveness, and not in a spirit of, you're a dummy and look at how you're looking right now, because that's not going to get through. That's going to cause me to blow up. And I think the way Kevin Hart handled the situation with his friend, he forced his friend to escalate it to a level of, I'm about to punch you in the face, because the way you said it, you need to be punched in the face. You have to look at Kevin Hart's ability to get things done and deeply respect it. Now, let me give you some context. I recently saw another documentary about the life of Dorothy Dandridge. And so you're looking at a black woman in Hollywood in the 40s and 50s trying to make her way in that system when black people and when women had zero influence, versus a time where Kevin Hart can greenlight his own projects. Kevin Hart can call up Chadwick Boseman and get Chadwick Boseman in a room to pitch to him. Kevin Hart can call up Idris Elba and get Idris Elba in a room to pitch to him. And when you look at that level of influence, when you look at and think about Tyler Perry, who has the largest production studio in the country right now and is almost a billionaire in the short span of maybe 15 to 16, 17 years in the industry, it is staggering to think about these men's level of influence versus Dorothy Dandridge's situation in the 40s and 50s and what Hollywood was like for a black woman back then. So huge inroads and huge strides have been made that have opened doors, largely because of contributions from women like her and men in the industry back in that time who did things that enabled us to be able to do the things that we're doing now. So I look at where we are and what Kevin Hart is able to do, and it's exciting. Having said that, you almost feel like, man, you have to be accountable for this much power. And that's an area where we see Kevin Hart struggle. Kevin Hart struggles with being held accountable. And when people attempt to hold Kevin Hart accountable for some of his choices, he resists, he deflects, he does the things that men do when they're uncomfortable with you trying to guide them or control them or tell them they should do better. But what I appreciate and respect about him is that he can listen. He can eventually come around. And that is the gold in this. He does eventually come around and say, you know what, maybe I didn't do that right. Maybe I should fix this. Maybe I should do better. And that's the gold. So the major takeaways that I got from this documentary are as follows. Number one, you don't have to get everything right to get everything right. Number two, do your best and do it often. Number three, surround yourself with people that you trust. Number four, take their advice and don't shit on them. Number five, if you shit on them, buy them a car. And number six, never go to Las Vegas by yourself. Never, ever, ever. So that's all for this video. Leave a comment below. Hit me up. Let me know what you thought of the documentary if you had a chance to see it. And let's keep this conversation going. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Bye.